Hello, and thank you for joining us today for another episode of our BNI San Diego podcast. As you know, we've been doing our core value series. So last week we had a core value. Next week we'll have another core value. But today I'm really excited. I'm joined by one of our amazing BNI members in BNI Partners in Excellence, Miguel Contreras. Miguel Contreras is a residential realtor, and we were just talking. He's been in the business for roughly 20 years. So he's seen some cycles and seen some things. But, Miguel, thank you for joining us today. And I want you to share a little bit about you in all of a minute and just kind of give our listeners, our audience, just a little bit of info about you.
Absolutely. Firstly, Ed, thanks for having me on. It's a huge honor to be here and share some knowledge and experience that I've gleaned through my years in BNI. Again, my name is Miguel Contreras. I'm a real estate agent. I'm an owner, founder of a small boutique agency, along with my partner, David Castillo, who's also a BNI member as well. As I mentioned, I've been in the business 20 years. I've been networking for a long time. I've been able to sustain my business through the ups and the downs, especially on the downs, through BNI and networking in general. And BNI has been one of my, foundational things that I do for my business. I actually started Partners in Excellence April of 2006, and we launched officially as a quote unquote BNI chapter January of 2007. So, I mean, I've been doing BNI for a long time.
Yeah, this is awesome.
So I believe in the system. I believe in what we do out there, networking, helping each other out. And as I mentioned, taking on almost a tribal aspect of really taking care of one another, the giver's gain mindset.
Absolutely. And that's why it works so well. One thing you didn't mention is the name of your company.
Yes. The name of my company is Rain West Collective.
Terrific. And we'll have some information down below, website and email address to be able to reach out to Miguel if you have any questions. But Miguel, let's get right into our topic. What are we going to talk about today?
Today, I'm excited to talk to you guys about being the featured presenter and presenting in a way that is engaging and increases your influence, and not only within BNI, but in the, what I call the real world out there, outside
Absolutely.
of the BNI meeting. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I always say that the secret sauce to BNI is the one-to-ones. That's the secret sauce. I say that if you're not doing one-to-ones, you're not doing this thing right.
You're building those relationships.
Yeah, so one-to-ones is the secret sauce. However, being the featured presenter and really doing it well, that's the secret spice to BNI.
So there's that. I like that. That's it gives flavor. It allows people to really get a better understanding of what you are. Because obviously we have our short weekly presentations, right? Our 30 to 60 seconds, but there's only so much that you can do. So we've got that period of time where you get to do your feature presentation, which is that larger portion of 8 minutes to be able to present to your audience, to your people, on what to look for, listen for, and to really be able to give a broader perspective of what you do.
Absolutely. It's a time for you to shine, but also it's a great time to engage in a manner that can be fun, believe it or not. Presenting in front of a room full of individuals who you may or may not know very well can be intimidating, but it can be very, very fun.
And like you said, that can be intimidating for a lot of people. We get a lot of people as they come into BNI, and you literally see them get up and they're a little bit nervous, but after a while and they become comfortable.
Yes.
And to your point, that there's a lot of opportunity in that. You just have to embrace the uncomfortableness.
Absolutely. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
There it is.
And what's funny or peculiar, oftentimes, as I mentioned, been doing BNI for a long time, and without fail, every so often, you have someone who's slated to be the keynote speaker or the featured presenter for that week, and sure enough, they get a cold, they get a cough, and because they're so uncomfortable. And I've read somewhere that people fear public speaking more than dying.
Oh, and it's true, right? But what I love about what we do in BNI, because it's about the relationships in the room, it actually becomes a comfortable environment. Because even when, let's face it, I can't tell you how many times I've bombed on my feature presentation, but at the end of it, everybody in the room is still encouraging me and, hey, you're doing a great job, and hey, you've gotten better since the last time you So it's that
Absolutely.
encouragement that comes along the way as well.
Absolutely. And in our chapter, we're very much about letting individuals know, hey, this is a safe forum. This is a safe place for you to experiment in your presentation, in your pitch. It's a time for you to practice to get better at pitching, at presenting, because you can polish those skills in a safe setting, in a safe format, and you can go outside of the BNI meeting and present even better. And then we've encouraged our team, our members in our chapter to present as
Absolutely.
frequently as possible, and to think outside the box when presenting. And one of the aspects and tools that I use when I present is storytelling. Oh, did I lose you, Ed? There you go. Sorry, I thought it froze on us there.
Yeah. No, you're all good. So the element of storytelling, obviously, Dr.
Absolutely.
Meisner is big on the element of storytelling. When you're coaching another fellow BNI member, the ones that are getting a little bit, how do you coach someone coming on in to that, time?
So first and foremost, what I tell individuals like that is if you're going to present, there's a couple factors that you need to take into consideration, and one is the level of influence. Being at the influencing from the front of the room is a special place and a special role and a special opportunity. So the level of influence increases as you present more, as you're presenting more in public, doing more public speaking. And the reason I encourage storytelling is because as human beings, we are genetically coded for story. We have a great oral history and an oral dynamic. So when we didn't write text and we couldn't read text, we taught verbally, orally,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we are coded for story. Hence why Hollywood and YouTube is so big. We like, even though if they're in video format, we love, as human beings, we love stories because it creates visual imagery in our brains that we can actually understand, irrespective of whatever the dialogue that's coming out of the person's mouth. If we can use story as allegory, as a metaphor to teach, then it's going to be more engaging. So,
Well, and to your point, it's also an opportunity for people to see themselves. They become a part of the story. Where
absolutely.
I've watched people present, and I've probably done it myself, where we get in our, let's say that every business would you, well, let's put it this way. Would it be safe to say that every business has its business vernacular, right? We have
Absolutely.
our shop talk,
Yes.
and it's interesting to watch people as they come into BNI and they're getting comfortable, that they start off with talking shop. They talk in their language, and then you kind of look around the room and you notice that people start to do other things because there's no relatability there. But to
Absolutely.
your point, the moment we start, as people get comfortable and they start into the story of,
Yes.
what of their business and why they came into the business, and the customer that they just got to help, and telling the story of that customer, oh my gosh, it's something that people lean into.
Big time. And people get it. It's a story. So you buy in without pressure. And there's been studies done that when you present and you tell and you just pitch like you normally would, with facts and whatnot. And the old adage is, facts tell, stories
Right.
sell. But
Absolutely.
your influence level, and really at the end of the day, when you're presenting, you're doing two things in BNI specifically. One, you're teaching your quote unquote informal sales force how to sell for you.
Hmm?
So you're essentially training them on how to look for opportunities to refer you. Additionally, the second point to doing a feature presentation is you're hoping to influence them to take action, and
Mm.
that action is to refer you or introduce you to business opportunities. So you're working on multiple fronts. So the level of influence, if you're just up there presenting, your level of influence is here. And studies have shown that if you add a story, and it could be a story that you've read in a magazine, in a newspaper or online newspaper nowadays, or a book, if you share a story that you can translate into a lesson or
Mm.
an action into your business, so you go from here to here, right? And it could be a story that happened to your brother. It could be a story that happened to someone you know, or like I said, something you read in a book. But if you tell a story that's personal to you, it skyrockets. So the
Oh,
level of influence is that much higher because what happens is you're exposing yourself, you're being vulnerable to a certain degree, and it's a unique story to you
yeah.
that no one else can copy. No one else can say the story and the experience that happened to you, but it's going to have similarities to the other persons in the room's lives, and they're going to be able to engage with you and really get to know you and understand you far better because you're engaging with them at a guttural level. At that, again, from that oral perspective and that
Yeah.
primal coding that we have as human beings, that we like to hear stories.
No, I love that. Right. And I love how you talked about using your own story, your own experiences. Now, there are on the flip side of that, there are people that I've seen that are not comfortable yet doing that. So what are some suggestions for someone who may not quote unquote have a story yet or believe they have a story? What are some things that they can do? And maybe it's even using somebody else's story.
Oh, absolutely. So I got to say this up front. Everybody has a story. Everyone has a
It
story
really
to
is
share.
true.
Everyone does. Everyone does. I'm going to share a story with you right now. Now, I'll tell you how simple it is to share a story and make it about a presentation, make it about your business. And since we just finished the holiday season here, I'm going to share something that happened to me a few years ago. About 6 or 7 years ago, we had converted from going to a natural Christmas tree to an artificial tree, which was against my religion. You know, I can't believe we're going to go
So
artificial.
true. Yeah.
So, so we did the artificial thing. We bought the tree early. We put it in our storage shed in a specific place for it. Put the box in there. It's a big old box, huge box. Put it in there. We took it out, put it up. Christmas ended, New Year's ended. We broke it down, put it back in the box. It never fits as well as it does when it
Never does,
comes out,
ever.
right? Right here. Put it back in the box. So I had my son, who at the time was probably about 5 or 6 years old, and I told him, "Hey, Mateo, come help me. Come to the shed with me, so that you can help me push this tree back into its spot, this dedicated spot that we had found for this tree." I'm like pushing this thing, and I'm like driving it. And I lift weights. I'm pretty strong, and I can't fit this thing right. And my son's helping me. We're pushing it, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm getting frustrated every moment. Every moment, I'm done with this, and I'm telling him, I don't know why doesn't this fit? And he's like, I don't know, Dad. Are you sure this is the right spot for it? This is the exact spot that I took the tree out of, so this has to fit. So I open the box up, readjust the tree, put it back in the box, try to shove it back in. Doesn't work. The damn thing is not going into a space. So my son said, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna go eat. Is that okay if I leave?" As he's walking out of the shed, he turns around and he says, "Flip it." I'm like, "Excuse me? Flip it? What do you mean flip it?" He's like, "Dad, flip the box." I'm like, "Okay, flip the box." I'm like, on its side? Yeah, flip it on its side. Sure enough, I flip it on its side, the thing slides right in. Different perspective, right? Different
That's it.
perspective.
Yeah.
So different perspective. That's the same thing that happens with public speaking. You got to flip it and change it to make it fit for you.
Ooh, I like that.
You see that? That's a story. I've used that story maybe 10, 15 times presenting, and I fit it for different aspects. Real estate today. Hey, flip the script, flip it, make the presentation fit for you, make the story fit for you. So what I tell someone who I'm coaching about presenting, being the keynote speaker, the feature presenter in BNI, I tell them to do a simple strategy. And this strategy is so basic, and I recommend this to everyone I talk to about storytelling in general. Story bank. So what I
Story man.
use, yeah, so you got to bank your stories. So something will happen to you,
Gotcha.
something will occur, or I use my kids all the time. They've taught me so many
Oh,
lessons, or they've experienced something, and what I do is I on my note app here on my iPhone, I have a slew of stories
what a great idea.
of experiences that have occurred to me, and then I go back to them and try to repurpose them for whatever presentation I'm going to be making. So in the past, before I got good at storytelling, I would have a near nervous breakdown about what I was going to present
Yeah.
about, how I was going to present. Oh my God, I just went like 2 months ago. What new data can I give? Right. Now my biggest worry is like, oh my God, what
Which
story can I
story?
use to fit that's going to be both entertaining and engaging? And because you use these human aspects, the guard goes completely down on
Hmm.
your audience, right? So then you could, with the stories, as you tell a story, like I just told the story about a Christmas tree,
Oh
you
yeah.
you kind of were enjoying it, right?
I
A
could
little bit.
totally relate because I could see it.
You could see it, right? So what happens, Ed, is that your guard in the lizard brain,
Hmm.
that fight or flight response that people have, like that works in either fight or flight, or it also works, this is boring, I don't want to listen to it.
Ah, good
But
point.
if you tell a really cool story, that filter from that lizard brain in the front of the brain goes completely down. And now you have access to the back of the brain in people's brain. And that is the crucial part where you want to be. So what happens is oftentimes presenters want to go up and speak from a logical perspective,
Hmm.
data driven,
Yep.
but they forget that there's this very primal part of the brain that filters everything first. And if you go with data and just, if you're boring, if you're just reading off of your PowerPoint, if your PowerPoint's all text, it's boring. So the lizard brain says, that's not a threat, but it's boring. I'm not going to engage. But if you use stories, then you can, that filter, that guard goes down, and now you're in the part of the brain that you need to be so that you could teach.
Well, and I love that. And one of the things that you said just reminded me that not only it's a huge portion of it is the presentation, the story, but the other part is the body language you're using during your presentation. And you could see someone who comes in and they if a chapter or you're at a meeting and they have a podium and you just stay behind the podium versus you walk around the podium and engage your audience, walk up and talk to people. And it's a
Yes.
completely different aspect and a way of doing a presentation. And you can see the people's engagement when you're moving, when your body language kind of goes with the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we've gotten away from in our chapter is heavy text PowerPoints. So
That's good.
our members kind of understand we are the storytelling chapter, and they understand. Ooh, my PowerPoint better be a little bit more dynamic if I'm going to use one. Me, I challenge myself. I rarely use a PowerPoint only because I really want to focus on my storytelling skills and enhance those. So for me, it's a good time to practice storytelling and weaving those stories
Yeah,
in an anecdotal way so that I can then pivot them and use them for real estate experience, or how that story would apply in real life
it's a
in
great
a real
idea.
estate situation. So I could get more referrals that way. Here's the cool thing. So our chapter, we've challenged ourselves to be the storytelling chapter, to be the image driven chapter. So our PowerPoints now, as our members go up, use more imagery in their PowerPoint versus text. So
So
they
that's
might
like
have
the
three.
Steve Jobs. That was a big Steve Jobs thing right there.
Absolutely. Vision. And really when you tell a story, you're just orally creating visions in your audience's brains. So we've gotten really good at that. We've gotten so creative. So Rams is in my chapter. I love it. This guy, he's a commercial insurance broker. He's made cocktails. He's a cocktail, like craft cocktail connoisseur, and he's made cocktails like, pretending to be a bartender. He's a pretty decent bartender, but he's made cocktails and has been able to, as he's making a cocktail, tell the stories of the cocktail and weave stories about the cocktails, the history of the cocktails, how to drink them, how to make them, and then envelops it. All of a sudden, the presentation is now no longer. It's not really about cocktails. It's about how he can insure restaurants and
Oh,
bars.
wow.
It's been amazing. And then we have Alex Cannon, who's taken it to a whole nother level. Alex Cannon, who's a personal injury attorney in our chapter, he's gone to the level where he's a hobbyist, a filmmaker. So he's actually recruited some of our members in our chapter to be actors in his presentation. So he'll
Oh, no
reenact
way.
cases that he's been involved in. It's been amazing, and it's so much fun because then you get to see your members in another light. They're acting, so it's a different way to present, and it gets the point across so much better, and it's so much more fun to be not only to present in that manner, but it's to receive the presentation as an audience member. It's so much fun.
Well, and what you what you just told our audience is they need to come to BNI Partners in Excellence to see it happen
Yeah,
live.
please, please, you're
Because
welcome
that's
anytime.
that says a lot about when you've created a culture around storytelling. It's a very engaging chapter. It's a very that they're waiting. Oh my gosh, who's going to be presenting today? I can't wait to hear, the
Yeah.
next story, the next things that are going on. And we find ourselves um we find what's the word? Um relatability.
Yes.
So that when now the story that you just shared with me, when I'm out and about at a barbecue or hanging out or at a business meeting and I see something, it's going to remind me of that so that ultimately that I can bring you back a referral. So it all works together. It's that symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. And the beauty of this, Ed, is that they don't have to be stories that are industry specific. So they don't have to be, if you're an insurance agent, they don't have to be about insurance. It could be about your kid striking out at Little League. But you can relate to the challenge that your child had, or maybe it was a challenge you had personally that you persevered, or you lost, for instance. You failed at something. You story bank that, you put that in your notes app, you story bank it, and then you reuse and repurpose the story for whatever setting you're in. So oftentimes I'll be at a party, social gathering, and I'm telling stories anyways, just to practice.
Well, and what I love, one of my, I know we're coming to our close here,
Mhm.
but what you just said reminded me. So I know you're Hispanic, I'm Hispanic.
Yeah.
We have huge families,
Oh, big time.
which means the holiday parties there's like a ton of people,
Yes.
but it never fails with all the chaos and the noise going on. The moment that one of my tios, one of my uncles begins to tell a story,
Ooh,
what happens in the room? The level of noise goes down
yes.
and everybody engages in the story.
Yeah. Yeah.
It-
So it's incredible, right? But you can look at all the sacred religious texts from all the world religions.
oh,
What are they? They're
there are stories.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. So that would be, again, I'm going to reiterate, being the feature presenter. That's the secret spice. Enveloping stories, anecdote, personal experience opens up a whole new world for you, because yes, it's going to take a little bit of craft and practice and a lot of vulnerability
Mm.
for you. But the more open you are, the more open and honest you could be while you're presenting, people are going to feel that, and they're going to feel it, and they're going to trust you more. And
Well,
that's really,
and
at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want the trust, because that leads to the VCP model, right? That's a high visibility
oh, big time.
position. If you're in the front of the room presenting, you're the keynote speaker. That's high visibility. If you tell an amazing story that connects at the very human level, at the cellular level, your credibility is just through the
Oh,
roof,
yeah.
man. And that's what we want. We want them to trust us. We want them to, they have to like us first so that they can trust us. And then if they trust us, they'll refer us.
Well, and that's where the profitability comes in.
Yeah,
Miguel,
exactly.
thank you so, I mean, oh my gosh, we could continue this conversation
Yeah,
for quite some time. I'm looking forward to having you back on to continue this conversation, but in different
absolutely.
aspects, because
Anytime.
it's such an important part of what we do, the storytelling, whether you're in a BNI chapter or even for your own business, you want to learn how to cultivate the craft of storytelling.
Yes.
And Miguel, I thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to having you back on again. I'm looking
Me
forward to
too.
seeing you next week because I get the
Yes.
privilege of visiting you guys. So I'm looking forward to hearing some good stories next
Oh, our
week.
t- our feature presenters better bring their A game
That's,
if you're visiting.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
and for our audience, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Miguel and Rain West Collective, and even just reach out and connect with Miguel on, hey, you know what? I've got some questions on storytelling or how
Absolutely.
you do your feature presentation. He'd be happy to help. His
Absolutely.
information, along with the website and everything's going to be down below. Make sure you click on it, reach out to him. Miguel is a phenomenal guy. And again, Miguel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Ed. It's been an honor. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that, the
And
opportunity.
I look forward to having you back. And for our audience, Remember, next week, we have another one of our amazing core values that we're going to be talking about with Andy Cruz of BNI Partners in Excellence as well. There's another good storyteller.
He is.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.
This episode of the BNI San Diego podcast has been brought to you by Cruz Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruzproductionsinc.com.